Okay, I guess we can just get started. This is the koha-US August web development special interest group where we talk about ill-advised things that we've done to Koha to break it with jQuery and CSS and customize it. There was a email to the list on the 8th requesting that we talk about changing the name of this SIG because it's confusing because now we have 3 different things that have development in their name. We've got baby devs, we've got development committee, and then we've got web dev. So the suggestions that Christopher sent out were changing the name to Koha Customizations or Interface Customizations to make it more clear that that's what we talk about here. I see that Paul gave me a thumbs up. Does anybody else have strong opinions on either of those things?
Not a very strong opinion, but it is web development though. So it's kind of it's more limiting, I would say it's only for interfacing because web development technically also includes the back end, maybe. So it's just kind of like if that's the focus of this one, and then the baby dev one is more if focus on like the fuller extent of web development, then I guess it makes sense. Or just to be like, if it's for clarity of like the purpose of the SIGs, I think the development committee could also be called like the product strategy or something, because it's like they're strategizing on how to improve the product and like what developments to prioritize. So it could be, if we eliminate development from all the developing, the ones that are about developing, it would just be kind of funny. That's all.
Okay. I started jotting down some notes so that we can respond back to Christopher. I was gonna look on the website to see what it actually says for this SIG. So it just says that our topics are Koha user experience interface design, HTML, jQuery, CSS customizations, and plugins. So I don't know. I guess Koha customization is probably big enough to cover all those things.
Yeah. But is also the baby dev SIG has to change his name too?
No, I don't think so. It was just this one that they sent out the email about. And Chip's here, he's in charge of the development committee, so he might have input on, on that.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's funny. We could change our committee's name to something like crowdsourcing, or I'm not sure. But yeah, I guess I can see where there would be confusion with having uh, 3 different dev committees, but it's all about the development though. Yeah. Hmm.
I guess question of focus is the SIG about people who are developing things, or is it for anybody who wants to talk about how those developments go in practice? Um, you know, obviously customization is maybe too broad of a term, but if somebody wanted to come here and talk about, I don't know, how to do a certain thing with notices, which I know is a thing we've talked about, they're not developing, but that doesn't mean they're not contributing or need help.
I would say even like the customizing the notice templates is like foraying into developing, because you can add all sorts of logic into those templates. So I think it all kind of
Sure.
fits.
Agreed. I'm just saying that the person who comes with that question might not be a developer.
Oh,
They
yeah.
they might have ideas or need help. And does the term development potentially push them off? I mean, I broadly agree with you that we have more right to development than the development committee does, but I do think that it's maybe not just about development. That's just the side effect of what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a super great point. The like focusing on who you actually want to attract into these kind of meetings, you know. So customization is very open and inviting, also to less technical people. So might actually not be that bad, but it's I'm like a guest, so you need to decide.
I feel you're a guest that we value your opinion greatly. So um, I agree. I think using the term customization over development is gonna make this group more approachable for sure, and maybe steer us out of what Baby Devs is doing, so that people will be directed to that one. If they want to write code that goes into a patch, they come to Baby Devs. If they want to write code that goes into their OPAC user CSS or OPAC user JS system preference or notices or whatever, they can come here and we can talk about that here, just to give us sort of two separate charges. Bob, I see you unmuted.
Brendan made the point about backend um, backend stuff being discussed in this group. How much um, how much of that is true? Like, because based on the SIG description, I until the last meeting when you guys mentioned this meeting, I personally I had no interest in the web development team based or subjects based on because I thought it was all yeah front end stuff and I'm more of a back end guy, so if the reality anyway is that it's like full stack, then maybe for one thing the SIG description needs to be rewritten.
Well, I mean, I think the Baby Devs one gets more into back end stuff, but I was just kind of like theorizing off like what are we talking about, the like where do you kind of draw the line on the naming of it, but it's not I agree with Paul and Ben's and Jason, I think, sentiment that like you're think about the audience of who you want to come and make it uh more inviting to people.
I mean, we've spent time talking about API, which one could argue is web dev, but one could argue is backend just as easily. And I think that, yeah, that
Yeah, APIs just from experience, it's like super tight sometimes to the front end. So that's actually how I got into web development, like deeply, like the back end doing APIs and modules that need to be called from API controllers, and then the front end that you know uses the data. So I don't remember what point I wanted to make, but just just some additional input.
not remembering what point I want to make pretty much sums up my life. Might be why I'm in this job.
But especially like plugins is a really big area where you could customize Koha, and that would be like you would do the full stack there if you're developing a plugin.
I guess historically, these meetings, we never get that deep into it. So I feel like this one is like the surface level stuff you can do as a librarian using the GUI, Koha GUI. Whereas like if we wanted to dig into, let's learn how to write a plugin I feel like that would fall
That would be
under
better for baby
baby
devs.
devs. Yeah.
But we didn't have baby devs before.
Right. So I think we're splitting off that part of it, like, into
And I
baby
think
devs.
it makes a lot of sense, I think.
So then back to the original question, we are sort of just focusing on how are we customizing Koha from the user perspective rather than the developer perspective, right? So that turns this back. I think Koha customizations makes sense as a sort of general name that may be less intimidating to people. And we can still leave the description of, we're talking about UX, we're talking about writing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and that sort of thing. So that when we don't do a good job of advertising this thing anyways, but if we start sending out messages, we can sort of clarify the purpose of the SIG and hopefully bring more people in. So is everybody cool with the name change to Koha customization SIG? All right, I got thumbs up, I got nods. So I will send Christopher an email. I'll just reply back to that listserv email about it. So we don't have an agenda. Does anybody want to talk about anything they've been doing?
I've been working on a plugin, but I've also done a couple of like very small little things to like work around basically like the permissions in Koha. If you have editing access, you always have deleting access pretty much, it seems like. So we found a couple of instances where we wanted to hide delete buttons so that just to hide them because we don't want people to delete items, for example. We'd rather them to withdraw the items and then we delete them later. So that's like something I didn't get fully tested, but I have some basic jQuery that you can throw in internet user.js just to hide some delete buttons, and base that on the logged in branch code. So you could have like one logged in branch code where you show the delete buttons and others that you don't show the delete buttons. We did that, and another one for we have this is something I guess could talk in the development committee, or you could talk in this committee or the baby devs committee, but it's one of the things, like we have staff that are patrons, right? Our staff accounts are patrons. We'd like can we hide those from the view of the search? And similarly, like for the we have a community college where those students have cards, but when they use they're only supposed to use those cards at the community college, and if they want to use the public library, they're supposed to get a public library card too and use it there. And the public libraries are not supposed to ever edit the cards of the community college students, but they like having a way to control that kind of. But one little way around it could be, we're just like testing it out a little bit. Just hide the edit buttons on the community college patrons if you're not a staff logged into the community college. Simple kind of workarounds for those practical things.
I have a quick question. Would protected patron help with that? Like the editing feature for like when staff see that it's a protected patron, then they wouldn't touch it or anything?
Maybe, but then we would have to give the college the ability. We'd have to. Are protected patrons only editable by the super librarians? I'm not sure. I have to think about that.
I think
Or is
that's
there
the intention because it's supposed to be protecting like SIP accounts and stuff, so only super librarians would be able to.
But yeah, I'd like something sort of similar to that, but like like
Have
the
you,
the student cards, if we could just only have them show up in patron search if you're at the college and
I think you
show
could do
up
that with library groups. Have you looked at that? Because
with
we have
library
a,
groups.
yeah, we've got a community college that only uses our system to authenticate for Hoopla. So I put their branch in a library group that doesn't allow for other libraries to see it when they search. And I think that's tied to groups and then a permission, like a staff permission.
But and you can do it for the patrons separately from the items because they should be able to
Yeah,
search for the items. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's just
Look
the
into the
patrons that aren't
library.
searchable. Let me look at that.
So, and just based off of what we have currently, we have suppressed our protected patron because last time I looked at it, anybody could basically use it. There's no like permission set to say, oh yeah, only super librarians can assign a protected patron unless it's changed recently. But yeah, that's why we suppress it because everybody could do it and
Yeah,
change.
I agree with you. I think it's the same thing. I think the intention was to stop it from getting deleted by automated processes, but I don't feel like anybody can edit. Um, I think you're right because I feel like we had an issue with that.
I only just started to use the protected patrons. So I made all of our staff accounts protected patrons and all of our API accounts as a start, but I just started using it, so I don't really have much experience with it.
That's the permission I was talking about. So you set up a library group where it's set to limit patron visibility to libraries within the group. So then you put your community college in that group alone, and then as long as that permission is unchecked, then the community college patrons won't show up in your patron search results.
Does that work vice versa though? So you've got a group of public librarians who need to see each other's patrons. Can they?
Yeah, so I have two groups set up. I've got the group for the one community college, and then I've got the group for all of my active member libraries.
Sure.
And they're both set to limit patron visibility to libraries within the group. So the larger consortium can share patrons without like seeing that library's patrons at all.
We mostly have it set up right now for limit item editing to items owned inside of this group. And so we have a bunch of groups like that. So you're saying I could go to the college one and add, I edit, I guess, and I add some, use for staff search groups, which
No, it's
patron data access.
limit patron data access by group. Yeah. And you would have to have two groups set up to make that work correctly. So like
Those patrons, so it would basically only allow, here's where I think it gets complicated too. We have like we have we have the college patron category for students and also for staff. And if I do that, how it's limiting by the home library or the patron category?
the home library.
Yeah.
So you only see that college's patrons when you're logged in as that college.
Okay. Maybe that might work. And staff search groups, how would that work? Sorry, that's going off topic.
No, yeah, I don't know. I have that set up on one thing and I'm not sure. I don't know what that feature does. Um, Staff search groups make the group visible in the library drop-down menu in the staff interface. Oh, it's specifically in advanced search. So there's a little drop-down for location availability that groups libraries together when you're searching the catalog by branch. I can show you my setup and show you what that looks like too, because I've got it going. Okay, so this is how my library groups are set up for that patron visibility. I've got SLO County is set up just with limit patron, and then the rest of my libraries where we do share patrons also have a group for that. So as long as that permission's set correctly, the people in this group can't see these patrons and the people in this group can't see these patrons.
Okay.
And then for the staff search groups, that's just this drop down in advanced search. So there's a grouping here. So I've got digital resources is that group, which is just something I was playing with, I assume, because I don't think we actually use that at all. But yeah, that's how my groups are set up. And it seems to do what you're describing.
And it would still work if you had the same, like, so you could have a group with all the libraries that you want to share patrons. Because right now we have a permission, I think it is, that says they all can see each other's patrons. It's not it's one of the permissions that you give to staff.
Right, that's the one he posted, the view borrower info from any libraries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
that
has to be unchecked to
Yeah,
make
you'd
this
have
So you
to-
work.
have to, so if I do this change, I have to uncheck that one.
Yeah,
And
right.
then I could still have the existing groups for the items. That's just separate groups. You have a
Right,
different group for the patron control. I think
correct.
I think that'll work for us.
One of my wish lists on customization is the ability to suppress item types by patron or by staff category, because we have an issue. We do a similar thing with our volunteers. Our volunteers can see all the items, but not any of the staff, not any of the patrons that are not outreach patrons. And but we'd like to be able to stop them from finding certain item types as well, because what happens is they place hold on interlibrary loan items and they shouldn't, and it's always difficult, trying to train volunteers. And so the ability to have a similar function but for item type would also be that's on my sort of pie in the sky wish list. We've experimented with trying to suppress those from the search results, and it's just really not worth the other problems it created.
Have you written a bug for that functionality that you're missing? You
I
should.
I should.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that it seems to make sense to me. So it's not a bad idea. So I would write a bug.
The list of bugs I should write has now reached 2 pages, I think. So I will. I'm gonna, for you, Paul, I'm gonna write that bug. You've inspired me.
I guess if I can talk about my current project, we just launched point of sale. I talked about this last week or last month too. We're trying to figure out how to make the point of sale work better in our consortial setting, specifically in regards to if they've got multiple registers, how do I make the login form work better for them? So there's that, and then Ben brought up in Slack about the editable fields in the point of sale system where it's not super clear. I did find a bug on that, and I just wrote some CSS to help
Oh, I'd
that
like to.
user experience. So that's bug 27800, and I put the CSS in there. I'll show you what I did though. So when you go to point of sale, you add the items, and then up here you've got this message that says you can click the quantities to edit them, but it's not like super clear to the
Right.
patron or the staff user. So I just pre-printed some little grayed out pencils just so it's sort of like more apparent that you can click
Yeah.
on that and edit those. And I added a comment to say that it would be really nice that whenever you click this add button, these fields are active for the row that you added, just so that it's clearer that you can change those at that time. I looked at the data tables documentation because what I really wanted to do was make the quantity column
Yes.
active at all times, but
Yep.
it looks like data tables only supports row activation one at a time. So I
Yeah.
couldn't get it to work when I tried to break it.
I
So.
spent a solid 4 hours trying to crack that one, and I just am like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I got it to where like using like a mutation observer, I could get it to do some
Sure.
stuff, but then it would just add endless pencil icons or whatever. So I gave up and just used some CSS, which was a lot lighter and cleaner, and it works for what we needed at this point. The
Always
other thing I
use
talked,
CSS if you don't have to use JavaScript, don't use it.
yeah, I agree. Um, for the login form, so last month I had taken it and I was like putting locks here and unlocking this and stuff, and I gave up on that because I'm like, I need to let go of some of my trust issues. So what I did do is store these values in cookies. So for my libraries that have multiple registers and there's just a couple, um, they get they have to pick their library, they pick their register, and then when I log in, it's not going to work, which is good because the home branch of this patron is not that library. So that was one thing I had to test. If I log in as me, because I'm a super librarian, it should work. And it's still a little weird because it didn't fill in my register. But when I log out, it's remembered that those are the settings I wanted to keep so that the patrons that do have to use the non-default register don't have to keep changing this every time they log in. There's a bug about this too, but I'll have to dig it up because I don't have it handy.
Do you think
Those are the major things. Oh, good.
do you think you could have like something, a little JavaScript that runs to just automatically focus the most recently added row in that column? So you would select
I
like whatever
tried it.
row is the last row, and then get that, which is an input, right? It's got to be, and just set focus on it. So then whenever you added the latest thing, it would automatically focus and be ready to accept a keyboard stroke.
I tried something similar to that, and I'm not suggesting I did it correctly. But data tables has a very strange timing is perhaps not the word that is I would use. But yeah, there is an event, and it just part of it is it's not a focus event that it wants. It's really a click event that it's looking for when it brings up the form. And so that's what I was really trying was to generate a click event when something was added, but I couldn't really get it to time properly. I guess I didn't think about a focus event that might be worth a try. Yeah, I'm actually gonna make a note of that. But I was trying to get some sort of click to go at the right time so you would see that field show up. And I don't know if I wasn't able to get that to work, but maybe a focus event would be easier.
Is that table rendered via API or is it server-side rendered? Do you know that? I need to check.
Let me just take a look. it wasn't really an issue. It's really more of an interface issue. Like the table shows up and it has everything it needs. It just, you want to see that there's an editable field there, and that requires you to click on the field to change it. And there's actually two editable fields, which is issue 2. There are situations where you want the staff person to know that they can edit the price too. So I don't know that it's really it's not so much that the data is incorrect, it's getting it to show that it's that's something that people can change. Did that make sense?
I want to look at this. I want to look at this and figure out how when
Where's
you
this
click that
module?
button to add a row to the table, something happens at that moment.
Right.
And you have to take advantage of that and say, find this input and make it focused.
Really what I want is find this input and make it clicked. Because though it does have focus, it's really it needs the click event to generate the
Oh, okay.
yeah. And double that, it actually requires, and I think this actually is a bug, it really requires 2 click events, because you need a click event to activate the editable portion of the field, and then you need to click it again to deactivate it and click the next one to activate that one. So if you've got 2 fields, even if you do a click event, you're really trying to manage 2, because a second click event will deactivate the field and not act 3 click events. I can show you on screen if you want to see. Let me see if I can share my screen. All right. So here I am. If I add black and white prints, what we want is for people to see that that's editable.
Yeah.
So I can click it, and if I click it again, it deactivates. If I add something like a donation where somebody would also need to set the cost, I would actually like both of these fields to be editable, or to be seen to be editable, and both of those all of that requires clicks. And I actually can't make 2 of them editable at the same time. I actually think that Jason's solution is probably gets us 85% of the way there.
So, and maybe you could just do it all with CSS to style those cells in the table to make them look like more like they just don't look like form
Right.
inputs, but they are
Yeah.
form inputs.
Right.
Again,
Yeah,
this should be
sorry.
a bug. Honestly, this is terrible UA. Because you're totally right. It's not obvious that this is an editable field, so
Yeah. And to be fair, that one is a bug. The 27845 is, or no, 27800 is the one.
yeah, but I agree these inputs need to be like they need to look like inputs, at least for the last row. That would be good. And that would solve everything. You don't need any JavaScript or CSS or anything. It should just look like an input.
So it's you would fix it all in the template toolkit.
Yeah, that's the best solution, because actually they have to be styled somehow to not look like inputs, because by default inputs look like inputs, you know. And therefore there might be some CSS that needs tweaking in the core, you know. And then probably would just select the last row. I don't in data tables there might be some configuration that needs to be done on the table initialization. So yeah, you should be fixing core. Should not be customized, you know.
Yeah, and I from reading the data tables documentation, which again I spent more time than I should have. It does seem to happen on initialization, which is just not something that we really have access to from the customization end of it. You know, most of our customizations actually wait for the page to load entirely.
Anything else people want to talk about? Problems you've run into, bugs you want us to look at together?
I was thinking about a bug that I kind of want to maybe work on is when you're merging patrons, there's you select which patron record you want to keep, and then it just takes that one and deletes the other. It updates the database and does a bunch of other stuff, but it would be cool to have like when you select your main patron that you want to keep, if you're merging two patrons, I guess this would be probably part of the key. Have an option there somewhere. I'm not sure what the best user interface would look like for this, but we have an example is kind of in the bibs. When you merge bibs, there's like two tabs. And I'm not 100% sure that it needs to be as complex as that, because I don't think switching back between two tabs is the best interface either. But just if you have two patrons, just be like, I want to retain some values from the second patron, and then it should show you a list of those. You check off which ones you want to keep or something, or maybe like there's that nice diff view. You can see the difference between the two patrons. You click, I think it says compare patrons, and then it pops up like the patron that you have selected to keep, and then like the other record, and it does a diff so you can see like what's added and what's getting deleted. Maybe it could be like included in that modal where you could check little boxes next to the rows of the ones that you wanted to move over to the patron that you're going to keep, and then add those fields to the form, and then I think it would be a pretty small development on the back end to say, do the merge thing exactly how you do it, and then update these fields. I don't know what do you think about like a good interface? I'm thinking of the merging patrons, and the other one I'm thinking of is I'm working on like using the USPS API to give like suggested addresses, and it's the same kind of, it's not a very common interface, I don't think, but like to show a side by side and have it basically allow you to choose which parts you want to update from one to the other. I don't know if anybody knows any good examples to look at something like that.
I mean, a side by side with checkboxes is the obvious answer. And I know I've seen something like this. I will just need to spend some time thinking about it. You know, I wonder if like music programs that have automated metadata downloaders would be a good place to look for an example, because you'll have a file that has a metadata tag with information, and then you'll go check Music Brains or something, and it'll say, here's the information we're trying to pull in from this source. Which do you want to keep?
Yeah.
And I wonder if something like that would give you an interface idea for it anyway.
Or I was thinking like kind of almost like 3 columns is ideal, because you have like what are you gonna final version of what you're gonna keep, and then the two that you're comparing.
Right.
Which is kind of like how the merge bibs works in Koha, only it's on tabs.
Yeah.
to me, I don't think it's as good to like switch back and forth between tabs if you don't have to create something like that. But I understand with the bib records, it's pretty intense comparison that you're doing there.
Sounds like a lot of work.
The to like design I think like one thought that I had is to just have something like you select the patron that you want to keep, and then there's a box somewhere that you check saying like I want to in the other patron record it would say like do you want to retain any values? Check here. And if you check that box right there in that table, it could just put all the any fields that are different from that record, give you a checkbox for each one. And then it would be right there, like in the same form that already is there. To avoid having to like if you introduce like another modal or something, then you have to have another form and copying like values between the forms. So I'm trying to think of a simpler way to do it.
It'd be nice if you could just do it within the existing compare
Right in
patron
the table,
modal.
like you think that's a decent idea? Like right underneath the name, maybe. Like once you select a patron, you check a box on the second patron saying like, I want to keep some values from this one. Then it shows you a list right there. So it's in the same, I don't know, but you don't get that side by side if you do it that way.
I mean, if I had to offer an opinion, and I don't know that I have one, but leveraging the existing interface by using the existing compare seems like the place I'd start, like Jason said. But
Yeah, I've just been poking at it. Like I was playing with merging records, and that's super actually annoying because if you try to pick fields from that you can't duplicate, then it just pops up a little alert. So like flipping back between the tabs, like you said, is kind of really frustrating. But
mhm.
on the patrons, if you hit the comparison view, it gives you the diff. So instead of having have a diff view like that, but then have your third column in that modal too, and have the checkboxes in the diff view, or you can say, I want this instead of that. I think that seems like a logical first
Yeah.
step towards making it less clunky.
I was thinking, okay, I think I'm gonna take a look at that, at doing it in the diff. I did have that thought. But then you would maybe want that diff to be updated as you're checking the boxes, maybe. So it does get a little complicated how to because you want to show the final version of this is the final, and this is like the one that you chose to keep, and this is the one that you're selecting some values to copy.
If you're worried about it being too confusing, make that a second step.
Yeah,
Hit
second step.
merge, and then it will say, this is what it will look like. Do you want to merge?
I'll copy the bug into the chat.
Mm.
There's a bug for it. And I was thinking of, it's not like probably like designing the interface is the hardest part of it, but then after that, doesn't seem like it's that hard to do.
I'd be curious to know about your address filling. We tried something like that a few years ago when we started self-registration, and mm, I think it would be a good plugin for a candidate for Koha.
Yeah, I can show you what I have so far. I have it right. I have it up here. I'm kind of at the stage where I need to basically make it a little bit nicer experience, but it roughly works.
Mhm.
Let me see how I can share. I just want one window, right? Yeah, this one. Okay. Is that a good size for people? So I have a plugin. Basically, if you send it a borrower number, then it looks up, gets the address of the borrower, and then does a API request to the USPS and brings in that. So this would be like what's in the database. If I click cancel here, I'll go back or keep original. This is where I got into this idea of this is a weird interface to design. I'm not quite sure like the best way to do it, but this was my first kind of go at that kind of thing, and then it made me think of the merging patrons, because that's something that the people that do that at our library, they were wanting to be able to, sometimes they have to copy stuff and then put it into the record that they're keeping. So it'd be cool if it was in Koha.
This is
But this
KTD,
basically,
right?
sorry?
Yeah, this is KTD, right?
Oh
Could
yeah,
you-
this is in I'm developing this plugin in KTD. There's a little JavaScript that it injects to put this button here for verify address. This is just like to kind of like to have the proof of concept, but ideally I want to have it so that you could maybe you set it as a preference in the plugin to like verify address when you save a record. So you have this button for now. So you already have to have the record saved. That sends it over to the plugin, which then it runs. It gets the address from the USPS as this one. So it corrects like a spelling error of Main Street, and it like correct the zip code. And then you could either keep the original or accept the suggested address. But maybe you also want to be able to just select certain fields. So then I was thinking of the merging patrons thing too. But this is just for like debugging, but it shows you like what the USPS API is giving you. And then I thought like to make it be able to do it when you save the patron record, you have to create the API route in the plugin that just takes so I made the API route, but I haven't done the next step, I guess. But the API route is working. So if you go to like this, if this is an API call for this number patron, it gives you the UPS data. Then I was thinking also like to further complicate it, you could have like you could have, instead of just passing through the response from the first API, you could have a more customized response that's got like the koha patron record, the suggested values to make it more flexible, or you maybe like make it so that the end user would be able to have like an easy API, but then there's an option for like some more advanced users. If they want the direct response, then you could add like an option, give me the raw API response too. But you could kind of maybe customize the response and then have it where if you're, I would want to do it, I guess, when you're editing the record.
So that is what we did. We just had the lookup while you're typing the address. It was looking up suggestions.
Yeah.
And that wasn't terribly difficult to accomplish. There were other reasons why we ended up jettisoning it, but it was only it was fairly straightforward to get the auto type. I had not even thought about this in terms of looking up existing addresses. Comparing existing addresses is not the approach I had in mind, but that would be helpful for cleaning up the database.
You have like an address autofill?
Yeah. Yep. It was so you'd start typing and it would start trying to autofill the address. And then once you kind of got close enough, you could select the option to autofill it.
What was that using the USPS
It was
API?
not. It was using a a third party that we had to pay for, which is
Oh.
the big reason we stopped. There was also some other issues. There were some performance issues and some, and I think we could overcome the user interface issues that I had created. But I will say it wasn't terribly difficult to execute an auto type, but it was not using the USPS API.
Yeah, I don't think auto type would be really possible with the USPS API because you have to make um a request that has to have the
Mhm.
state in it, and it has to have it has to have the address and the state, I think, at the minimum. You can't you can't probably get the addresses to start auto-populating, I don't think.
Okay.
Without, that would be crazy, I think, if you could try to do something like that.
Well, you
Um,
could do it. It's just a lot of work, and you would probably get rate limited by the USPS API because
Yeah.
if you don't debounce that search on the address fields, and you have lots of people, yeah, I don't know how generous they are with their API
They're
responses, but
they're like the token that they give you, it only lasts like a minute, I think. So that's the other thing I don't really know how to do properly in the plugin yet, but like I'm just getting a new token for every request. But maybe I don't know, like it's designed really only for like one at a time transactions. It's not designed to like automate, go through your entire database and update it. That I think it would be against their terms of use. But it's more for like when you need to, when you're having somebody register or you need to mail a bill or something, then you would be able to do it. I was thinking like the ideal point is when you click save on the record, it would pop up like a modal and saying, do you wanna, or maybe there's an option somewhere you can figure when you save it, and then it would pop up like, do you want to verify the address? This is the suggested address. And then when you save the record, maybe it would not only update the address, but it could update like the plugin could have a record of like when's the last time each record got verified, maybe. So that you could have like a little green check next to the addresses that were verified or something. Anyways, I'm trying to work on that. I'll stop sharing because I don't have anything else to share.
I think, don't quote me on this, but I think we were using Smarty for our live lookup.
Okay. I haven't heard of that.
I could be misremembering that, but I think that was it. And it was, I don't know, at the time it was like $25 a month for 5,000 lookups, which was enough for us, but it was still a fair amount of money for something that staff didn't feel they really needed. It was mostly for the self-registration.
Yeah. We have a third party that does our self-registration form, and they have this already.
Okay.
They use something, I think it's called Melissa.
Yeah, they're, I think, a competitor of Smarty. Yeah.
this is so
That's
interesting. Honestly, you have so interesting problems in the US. In Germany, we also have all sorts of problems, but these are very they are technically interesting, It's you have the more fun problem.
well, if you want another level to this problem, I'd also like to uh, have it determine what municipality that they're located in. So we can say, well, this address is not located in Fargo, North Dakota. So we can route them to a different patron class or something. Because the
Oh, yeah,
way, yeah.
that would be really cool. I think also for our we have to do these state reporting of all the circulation statistics.
Mhm.
And so we have a patron attribute called registration qualifier, and that is either like you're a resident in the town where the library is, or you're a resident in the state where the library is, but not the town, or you're outside of the state. And if those fields are not updated and maintained properly, when patron records are updated for whatever people move around and stuff, and if those fields are not maintained, then all the statistics are off, and then nobody likes that. So it would be cool to have it also be like hooked into that. Anytime you edit a record, it can check that somehow that you're putting that field properly.
I think the important thing is this is very tied to you as your problem, right?
Yeah.
And that's because a plugin is the natural choice to solve this problem. And for me, the question is now, what access does the plugin need via hooks to more efficiently solve this problem? That will be the interesting question for me, you know.
I'm learning. I can share my screen again, I guess, if you want, but we're kind of at the time anyways. But one thing that I've tried to do and failed, I tried to look at an example from Tomas with the internet user JS hook. He has an example on one of his plugins where it pulls that in from a file, and I tried to do exactly that, but I couldn't get it to work. But maybe it's just I didn't do the steps properly and I have to restart it. But that would be nice, I think. That's it. It's weird though, because I got it to work for the example in the kitchen sink for the API. It already works like that. It pulls in the Open API JSON file from a separate file. So I think it would be nice to be able to do that with the JavaScript too, instead of like editing the JavaScript inside the Perl file. So I guess maybe I'm gonna try to do that one again. But I guess a working example of something like I can copy the code. It uses something called mbf read and then reads in a file there, but I have to try to get that one to work. I don't know about specifically what is lacking in the plugin hooks because I'm just really learning about it right now.
Next time you can tell us about all those German problems too, Paul. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, it's mostly, you know, it's always money problems. And like ways to track money and everything needs to be tracked, and for tax reasons. It is everything related to like money and acquisition is awesome in Germany.
I got a whole set of those too, so I
All right, well, we did hit the hour mark, so we can probably wrap up for this month. I do believe that web dev, or I guess we're calling it call customization, now is on the agenda for conference in a couple of weeks. So I don't know what the plan is there, but probably have a little get together at conference at the koha-US conference. So I don't know if we'll have a meeting next month or not. We'll play that by ear.
everybody have fun.
You can join us virtually still, right?
Some of it, yeah. I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be recorded if nothing else.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see everybody next time we see everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Jason.